Welcome to the deep dive. You've pulled together quite a stack here. Articles, news, database entries, fan chats, all about one thing, really. The new Silent Hill F.
That's right. And for a game we haven't seen a ton about, these sources actually paint a pretty detailed picture. Everything from the setting to the horror elements.
Totally. So our job today is to sift through all this, find the really key bits of info, the important nuggets, and help you get a solid handle on what Silent Hill F is looking like. Let's jump in.
Okay, let's start with the basics. What is this game? Well, the sources confirm it's the 8th mainline Silent Hill game.
8th main one, yeah. And the first since Silent Hill, Downpour, which was, wow, 2012. Feels like forever ago.
It really does. And this isn't the usual Silent Hill location. The big news is the setting. A fictional town, Ebisugaoka, in Japan. And get this, it's set in the 1960s.
Whoa, okay. 1960s Japan. That's a massive departure from, the foggy American towns we usually get. Big change.
Huge change. And you won't have too long to wait, apparently. The sources seem pretty solid on the release date, September 25th, 2025.
September 25th, 2025. Got it. And platforms, is it coming to everything?
Pretty much the current gen, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC as well. That's Steam, Epic Game Store, Microsoft Windows. So good coverage there.
Okay. And they're doing pre-orders already?
Yep, pre-orders are live, standard and deluxe editions.
What's the difference? Any perks?
Yeah, the deluxe gets you some digital stuff, cosmetics, an art book, the soundtrack,
Yep.
and 48 hours early access, which is always nice.
Ah, the early access hook.
Right. The standard pre-order also throws in some in-game bonuses and cosmetics too, so you get a little something either way.
Okay, let's circle back to that setting. 1960s Japan, the older games always felt so. Western horror, Stephen King vibes, Lovecraft, even that crime and punishment influence in number 2. Why the massive shift east?
That's actually a really key point from the sources. The producer, Motoi Okamoto, was apparently quite open about this. He felt the series' Japanese identity was kind of fading because it had been set in the West for so long.
Right, losing its roots a bit.
Exactly. So Konami wanted to consciously reinforce that, bring back a stronger Japanese creative voice. They're literally calling it 100% Japanese horror.
100% Japanese horror. Okay, that's bold. What does that mean for the type of horror? Do the sources give us a clue?
They do. There's this core concept mentioned, finding the terror in beauty.
Terror in beauty. How does that work?
The idea seems to be that when something is extremely beautiful, like almost unnaturally perfect, it can become unsettling, creepy, even horrifying. It's not just about darkness and decay. It's the beautiful itself twisting into something terrifying.
Ah, that's different. So the horror isn't just monsters jumping out. It might be baked into the seemingly idyllic setting itself.
Potentially, yeah. And the developers apparently acknowledged this was a challenge.
What kind of challenge?
Well, how do you keep those core Silent Hill themes?
Mm.
The protagonists wrestling with their inner demons, sin, guilt, all that psychological stuff, but transport it completely away from that familiar, almost iconic, haunted American town setting. That town was practically a character.
True. And this Japanese town, Ebisugaoka, they didn't just pull it out of thin air, did they? Sources mentioned a real place.
They did. It's inspired by a real town called Kanayama in Juro, Gifu Prefecture, and the team actually went there.
Oh, cool. For reference shots.
More than that, actually. They specifically recorded sounds there, soundscapes, to really capture the authentic feel of 1960s rural Japan for the game's audio. That kind of attention to detail, it's promising.
Definitely. Okay, so who's navigating this terrifyingly beautiful 1960s Japan? Who's the protagonist?
Her name is Shimizu Hinako, and she's a young high school student.
Okay. And knowing Silent Hill, she's probably not having a great time even before the fog rolls in.
You guessed it.
Yeah.
The sources describe her as really struggling under social pressure. Friends, family, society, all weighing on her. Apparently she used to be cheerful, but has become withdrawn, doesn't smile much.
Classic Silent Hill setup. That internal stuff is definitely going to manifest externally, isn't it?
Almost certainly. So the story kicks off when this mysterious fog blankets Ebisugaoka, twisting it into a nightmare world.
And she has to survive.
Exactly. Navigate the town, solve those typical complex Silent Hill puzzles, face off against grotesque monsters, which we'll get to, and make decisions that impact her fate.
Interesting. And she's only the second female lead in a main game, right? After Heather in Silent Hill 3.
That's correct. And the writer, Ryukushu7, famous for Higurashi, When They Cry, another really intense horror story, he apparently had a specific goal for Hinako.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He wanted her to be a character who actively makes her own choices. He felt some previous female horror characters were maybe defined too much by just suffering, just being kind of dragged along by events. He wanted Hanako to have more agency.
Makes sense. Giving her more control, even amidst the horror.
Hmm.
And she's played by Konatsu Kato, the actress. Okay, let's get to the meat of it. The horror. It's still horror, right? Not an action game.
Oh, definitely still horror. The sources are clear. It's about fear, discomfort, not action thrills, and the focus seems very much on psychological horror.
More so than before, even.
Possibly, yeah. Described as maybe clearer or more explicit in its focus on psychological states, things like deep unease, paranoia, anxiety, making those the core drivers of the dread.
But it's not just in the head, is it? I saw mentions of
Yeah.
body horror.
Yes, very strong emphasis on body horror in the materials. You know, horror derived from extreme physical changes or harm, but maybe not outright death all the time. It sounds like it's going to be visually unsettling.
How unsettling are we talking? The ESRB rating summary you found had some specifics.
Yeah, it did, and they are. Well, they're pretty graphic, designed to shock, I think.
Go on. Give us the grim details.
Okay, well, examples mentioned include a woman being branded with a hot iron, a character being burned alive inside a cage.
Oof.
Yeah, and descriptions of rituals using like entrails and sinew, and even a scene where one character slices off another's face during some kind of ritual.
Wow, okay, that's intense, visceral.
Definitely visceral. And the sources suggest these aren't just random shocks, they might tie into themes. Well, slicing off a face. That could easily represent, the destruction of identity, right? Maybe forced conformity. Being burned in a cage could symbolize being trapped, punished for resistance. Maybe by society, maybe by a cult.
Right, tying the visual horror back to the psychological themes or narrative. Makes sense. And the monsters themselves, what do they look like?
The glimpses we've gotten suggest really unsettling designs. Descriptions mention grotesque figures, almost like mannequins gone wrong. There's a specific, very disturbing, blood-soaked figure people are calling Sakuko, maybe a boss.
The cuckoo, okay.
And some lumbering, sort of golem-like creatures, too. Fans are definitely seeing parallels to Junji Ito's work, the famous horror manga artist.
I can see that. Twisted bodies, unnatural forms.
Exactly. And the thinking is these monsters might be manifestations of Hanako's own internal state, her subconscious, or maybe they're drawn from Japanese folklore, like yokai.
Yokai, right. Those traditional Japanese spirits and monsters. That would fit the setting perfectly.
Totally. Makes the horror feel really rooted in that specific cultural context.
What other themes are bubbling up from the sources? Besides the psychological stuff and body horror.
Well, strong hints of cults. There are mentions of mask-wearing figures, symbols that look kind of like the classic Silent Hill cult stuff.
Ah, the order isn't done yet, maybe? Or a new version?
Could be. Societal pressure is clearly huge, linking back to Hanako's background. And maybe themes of death or transition. There were red lilies shown in the trailer, which often symbolize mourning or parting in Japan.
And the content warnings are extensive.
Yeah, it's a long list. Blood, monsters, cults, gender discrimination, child abuse, bullying, drug hallucinations, torture, violence. They are definitely not pulling punches.
So the fans expecting intense horror, they might get their wish.
It certainly sounds like it. The fan reactions included show people are hoping for something really unsettling, something that might even challenge Silent Hill 2 for its psychological depth and scariness. High bar, but maybe achievable with this new direction.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Gameplay. How will we actually play through this nightmare? What do the sources say about mechanics?
From the trailer snippets, it looks like there might be a bit more focus on melee combat this time. Closer encounters.
Any specific weapons spotted?
Yep, the classic steel pipe is back. Good old reliable.
Can't have Silent Hill without a pipe.
Right. But also, fitting the setting, the Japanese naginata, that long pole weapon. So a mix of old and new there, too.
And puzzles. Please tell me there are puzzles.
Confirmed. Puzzles are definitely part of the survival gameplay loop. It's single player, built on Unreal Engine 5.
Unreal 5, okay. Should look pretty good then. What about the sound? Music is so crucial in these games.
Absolutely vital, and they seem to be handling it thoughtfully. The legend, Akira Yamaoka, is back.
No way. Really?
Yep, he's composing for the Fog World sections, and he specifically said he wants to bring his own Japanese cultural identity into the music this time.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And for the other world?
That's being handled by Kensuke Inej. He's apparently blending ancient Japanese court music styles with ambient sounds to create feelings of, agony and conflict. And other composers linked to Ryukusho 7 are involved, too.
Whole team effort on the sound, plus those real-world sound recordings they did.
Exactly. It sounds like the audio design is going to be incredibly layered and atmospheric.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this deep dive up. If you had to boil it down, what are the absolute key takeaways from all this material we've looked at?
I'd say, 1, the huge deliberate shift to 1960s Japan going for 100% Japanese horror. 2, the intense focus on psychological horror and very graphic body horror, potentially linked to Japanese folklore and yokai. 3, it's being driven by top Japanese creators like Ryukishizo 7 writing and Yamaoka doing music. It's a return to roots, but in a totally new environment.
And why should you, listening now, care about this? Why is Silent Hill Railsong relevant?
Because it's not just another sequel, it feels like a really conscious attempt to maybe redefine the franchise or at least recapture a specific creative energy by going back to its Japanese origins. Setting it so specifically in 1960s, Japan promises something potentially unique, deeply unsettling, and culturally specific in its horror. It could be a really fresh take.
A fresh take rooted in something old. Interesting. Okay, final thought then, something for you to chew on after this. We talked about that core concept, finding the terror in beauty and the setting. 1960s rural Japan, a place often idealized for its beauty, its traditions, its harmony.
Right.
So how might that very beauty, the picturesque landscapes, the traditional houses, maybe even those strict social customs, how might that itself become the source of the horror? Not just the backdrop for monsters, but the thing that becomes terrifying. How does making a beautiful place horrifying make the terror even stronger, even more disturbing than if it were just set somewhere obviously grim from the start?
That is a deeply unsettling question to end on. The horror coming not from outside, but from the beautiful turning ugly or revealing an ugliness that was always just beneath the surface.
Go.
Chilling stuff.